Good morning.
Good morning. How are you, Mary?
I'm well. How are you?
Perfect, thank you.
Good. I'm so excited for this talk today. I have been like chomping at the bit, filling my toolbox because we get to talk about what we put in our toolboxes to keep our brains healthy. And I have learned so much from you, the master, but I'm excited to share this. I think it's really important.
Yeah, I think we learn from each other. You're the wizard of the fidgets. And changing up the sensory experience, I've learned so many cool tricks and tips from you. So let's learn from each other today. And I bet, even though we're pretty well prepared for today and we know each other pretty well, I bet we learned something from each other today.
I always do when I spend time with you. So I know today we have a game plan to talk about stress and how stress can kind of impact our brain and why it's important to bring some relaxation into our world when we're feeling extra stressed, the impact on our cognitive abilities and how to make cognitive health a game, and joy and happiness, which is a perfect way to always end our talks. So we're going to talk about the importance of joy and happiness and how we can put some tools in our toolbox that help that arena.
Yeah, and carry joy through life, right? So
Exactly.
let's do a little bit of an extended exercise this morning. I think that since we're starting out talking about stress and relaxation, let's take one of the things we're going to focus on today are things that you can do where you are. You
Yes.
know, don't need to go to the gym or the library or the bookstore or the grocery store or the bank or to a therapist to do any of these things. You just sit where you are. So we've gathered things. The one thing that we always carry with us, no matter what, is our breath.
Yes. Yes.
And we do talk about this pretty extensively, but I heard a great mindfulness exercise that I kind of want to try with you today. Okay?
I mean, mhm.
um, there are thoughts that get in our way, and today we're going to talk about what to do with those thoughts. People say, "Oh, I can't meditate. I can't. Can't focus long enough. My thoughts don't stay in that spot long enough for me to get into the zone. Get into that zone where you get total relaxation." So we're going to talk about what we do with those. So if you could get comfortable. Make sure your feet are on the ground. That's so important to feel grounded and to feel that beam of light from above running down your spine, through your feet, radiating into the ground, and you're planting your roots into the ground. This morning, we're going to focus on our breath. So take a deep breath in and feel that cool rush of air as it comes in through your nose and fills your lungs. Hold it at the top, let it rain down all over your body. Now release that breath. Focus on the breath. Let everything else melt away. Focus on your breath. Find a normal, easy rhythm for your breath. Today we don't necessarily want to do deep breathing. We just want to focus on those moments. So when you're in a situation and you feel your shoulders rising a little bit, take yourself back to your breath. Breathe in through your nose and out through your mouth. Feel your stomach push out as you inhale. If you can't get a good visual of that, if you're having a hard time focusing on that breath, put your hands on your stomach. Feel as your stomach moves in and out as you breathe, even small, shallow breaths. Not important to take deep breaths or draw attention to you during this exercise. As you continue to breathe, thoughts are going to come in, or noises, like a dog barking in the background. Acknowledge that thought, acknowledge that sound, and then watch it float away. Return to your breath. Return to that cool rush of air in and the warm air as it comes out. The inhale and the exhale. Nice and easy. Now feel the sensations at the tips of your fingers as you breathe in. Rub the tips of your fingers. Breathe in, breathe out. As you continue to breathe, more thoughts will come in. What you need to do today, distractions come into your world, thoughts pass through your mind. Acknowledge that thought, recognize it fully, and then watch it float away. Return to your breath. Easy breathing. Acknowledge the dog barking in the background. Acknowledge it fully, it's part of life. And then feel that pleasure as you watch that float away into the distance. Watch that thought, that sound, float away into the distance. And then start coming back into your body. Big deep breath in and out through your mouth. You can use this tool at any time during the day. At any place, anywhere you are, you always carry your breath with you. You carry your breath, you carry your heart rate, you carry how your skin feels with you. Your body and your body's functions go with you wherever you go. So we're gonna have a bookend conversation today. We are going to talk about how to release stress and the importance of a little bit of stress in your life on one end. And then we're going to close with the absolute polar opposite. So we're going to talk about two neurochemicals. The first one is cortisol, and it gets such a bad rap, and we'll talk about that in just a second. On the other end is oxytocin, which is glorified. If you have too much of either, you put your body in danger. What we're going to do in the middle is we're going to find that lane. We're going to find that happiness lane, that joy lane, that feel-good lane where you are bathing your brain with serotonin, dopamine, norepinephrine, also known as endorphins. So,
you go ahead. Sorry.
How do you find relaxation, Mary?
You know, there are a lot of different ways, but there's a couple tools that I have in this little box here that I brought to share that I'm excited about, because I do think that what you were just describing is that ever elusive balance that people talk about all the time. Right. And I like the fact that it's one thing to talk about balance, but it's another thing to understand why balance is important. So one of the ways that I do kind of create balance, if you will, and the tools that I use are, oftentimes there's too much sensory input for me. So I like to block some of it out. And this is my handy dandy little mask. And it's one of my favorite things, especially if I'm doing a meditation, to just take one extra sense and shut it down completely. So I can, that's one way.
That's a great point, Mary. So when you're trying to focus, for example, on your breath, like we just did, you have a ton of sensory information coming in. The fewer things you need to acknowledge and watch float away, the more likely you are to get in that restful, peaceful state and to get your brain waves to the level that you want. And sometime soon we'll talk about meditation and alpha and theta waves in your brain and what we really want to achieve. However, the more things you can take out of the equation, the better you're going to be. Excellent.
Exactly. Do you write?
Yeah, it's my journal. And it's there's a difference between writing on the computer, which I do all day long, and writing in my journal with a pen held in my hand. There's more of an emotional connection.
Yeah, that area.
Right.
So, and my daughter, my younger one, who had been resistant for years, has just discovered the importance of writing. There's nothing like your first year in college to kind of send you scammering, to look for ways to release some of that stress, to reduce it. My other way is, and I love this, I have a collection of different rocks, and I know we're both rock people, that are smooth, that I can hold, that have meaning to me. Usually I have found them in some, so yeah, we're rock people. I
always have a rock in my pocket. It's usually this one, but I
Oh,
always have at least one rock in my pocket, because what that allows me to do is it's a focusing tool. And that with stress, that's important to have a focusing tool. I can focus that energy on my thumb and the rock.
yep. And I like, one of the things that I like, I'll keep this part brief, but is I like having rocks of different weight personally,
Beautiful.
um, and different shapes. So like you, I noticed yours have different shapes. I tend to like the smooth ones that I can just kind of hold, like, um, I've heard of them called worry stones before, and I've seen that, but they could be a joy stone too.
Sure can.
Um, so I use rocks. I also use, this is my little portable aromatherapy kit.
Mm-hmm.
And one of my most often used scents is lavender.
Oh,
Uh,
I have my lavender incense, and incense has a tendency, I don't light it because the smell becomes overpowering. I
yes,
just open the box and oh my gosh,
oh,
that rush of calm.
exactly. I
Mm-hmm.
have a spray that I can also spray on my pillow of
Mm-hmm.
lavender. So there's that. One of the other
And
things,
speaking of sprays, this is always on my desk. So I have two different scents. Both are floral and both wake up my senses. And
mhm,
again, they're focusing tools. So I feel that stress coming on, spray it on my hands, clap them together, wave it in front of my face, and oh my gosh, everything just pours right off.
it
Stress just
takes
goes away.
a different place.
Mm-hmm.
One of the other ones that I love, and this dear friend named Ruth gave me this one, coloring.
We have matching books. Isn't that cute?
Coloring. And ironically, this I was both delighted and surprised to hear that the younger daughter is in a I think it's called cultural sociology. It's a not her cultural anthro, but they're discussing modern day issues of sociology in the class. And some of it can get pretty heavy and some of it can get pretty heated. And her professor actually copies off coloring pages so the kids can grab a coloring page while she's lecturing and color to help diffuse some of the tension that arises in the class.
Yeah,
So
that's great.
I love coloring. I love my aromatherapy. I love my rocks, and my journal is my go-to. Those are
And
my
my last one, birds. I love bird watching. I just, when you and I talk, often you'll see me just looking off in the distance. That's because the birds are flying and being able to identify them. So this leads us into how we can turn a relaxation exercise into a cognitive exercise. So I see my birds flying and I think, oh, what can I do? What can I learn about that? How can I activate my brain just a little bit more? This book is on my desk all the time. And I've got a smaller one that I carry in my backpack that identifies birds. So we're moving into cognitive exercises.
beautiful segue there. Like you, I love birds. I also love plants. Most of my garden is centered around either providing food or attracting wildlife. And
Cool.
I love the idea of when we think about the outdoors and how we plan and things like that. Um, is what can I plant differently this year? What do I put together? How do I bring something that I love and shake it up so that it becomes a whole new experience? This year, I've had my garden set for some time, but this year I'm thinking I might change it up and learn about straw bale gardening. And
Mm.
it's something that doesn't feel like I'm working my brain, but I'm working my brain.
Gardening, planning a garden is probably one of the most all around rigorous brain exercises you can do because you're working on a mental map. You're creating a map, you're looking at visual, spatial pieces.
Mhm.
You're planning, this goes here, this goes here, this goes there. So it's mapping, planning, space, looking at space and how things fit together. It's digging in the dirt. It's that sensory thing. It's imagining all the smells. It's actually experiencing the smells too. So that's an amazing exercise. If you can't go outside, it's also important to bring nature inside. That is a great cognitive exercise. So I had a friend who made this for me. It's all of the plants that were, I couldn't go outside, and it's all of the plants that were on my property. So this is a way that I could have learned. I learned all the names. I looked at them. I identified them. And that was when I was in the middle of a brain injury. So that was a great cognitive exercise for me. That's always on my wall.
What a beautiful way, too. So that, I see the dual benefit, relaxation of looking at the beautiful flowers, cognitive, bringing in some learning aspects, if you will.
Right.
And sometimes I like to dial it up, too, and make a little bit more rigorous play. So we've talked about this one. I hate Rubik's Cubes. I hate them. I've never solved one in my life. However, I do like this toy, which is really, it's a toy. It's got a switch. It gets a little bit loud, so I won't turn it on. But inside each of these is where most of the little colors have wiped off, but it still holds the original color. So this is the red spot, the green spot, orange, blue, white, and yellow. And it will flash a color at me, and I have to find it and press it to turn it off. And so it's a continual movement type toy.
Right.
That was one of my favorites.
Yeah. Here's another paper and pencil that's amazing, and this goes back to the same kind of planning as gardening. It's that same set of cognitive skills. Mazes are amazing. Mazes are amazing. Gee, that's strange.
That word is in there.
Yeah, this book is full of mazes, different shapes, different configurations. Some are larger, some are smaller. But mazes are a great way. See, here's a 3D maze. Here's a simple maze. All of them trigger that problem solving, the visual, spatial areas of our brain that people like you and I have a tendency not to use. Because we write, we use words. So it's really important to focus on those types of things. Mazes are a great way to do that.
I think mazes are a great way. There's also all these little books that you can buy. Like this is the picture puzzles. I know that your website, Cranium Crunches, does excellent picture puzzles and memory puzzles. But
it's very critical to see those kind of things because not everybody does web interactive stuff.
Yeah. So you can buy these at any of the stores, usually where they have their magazines or big magazine racks. And this is the find the differences kind. Sudoku, which I still have yet to figure out and have not once successfully solved a problem, but I haven't given up. And then because I am that kind of word person and I have poor eyesight, I use the word search jumbo words.
Look at this. We're on the same page again. Mammoth Book of Word Games. This has all kinds of different word games. You know, they're from fill in the blanks.
Yep.
To crosswords, to cryptograms, to I'm trying to think of the right word when you solve a problem. What is that called?
Solution?
Logic puzzles. Thank you.
Logic puzzles.
See, this is why we play word games, because we got to keep our brains filled, that accessible well, that well of words that you have to draw on. And I don't think we should sell that short. It's something that we enjoy, but vocabulary is something that disappears, and access to the vocabulary is something that disappears. And a lot of people experience that as they age. What's that word? What's your name? Can't pull it out. Word games are an amazing way to practice that in a safe environment. So here's another. I'm big on board games. This game is Quick Cubes. And it's cubes that have words on them, and you create sentences with the words. So it's working out those kind of exercises. It's those kind of things where you're not just, it's not just the rearranging the letters or finding the right word to put in the crossword. It's taking words and putting them into sentences and being creative and thinking creatively and getting that going as well, putting all the pieces together.
And I don't know if you have it handy. I know you and I both like story cubes. Oh,
I knew you were going to say that. I actually have, this one is actions. This is voyages. So story cubes, let me pull some out. I've got them in a little bag here. And I use these a lot. And these fire up my imagination. So you roll the cubes and you've got, for example, the letter L on this one, a guy shouting on that one. Can you see that?
Yep.
So the object is that you take a whole handful of these cubes and they come up with different things and you create a sentence based on, and I think we talked about this before. We need to create an emoticon.
Yes.
An online emoticon. So roll the emoticons and create a sentence. That'd be fun.
That'd be fun. That would be fun.
And you sentence structure and it's got to make sense and you can set rules around it too. Sentence needs to make you smile. Sentence needs to make you feel. Whatever you're working on at that point. You want to smile more? Do you want to draw out some more emotion in your life? Focusing tools. One
of the things that I like, though, is that if you'll notice that we're not talking about any kind of let me sit down and do a workbook page type of tool.
Exactly.
And one of the ones that I want to touch upon that will also transition us to our next point, but is don't forget the benefit of things like the Wii, if you have a game system of some sort.
Right.
Or my husband's favorite game is the Tetris. He has a little old-fashioned, one of those handheld before everything went on your phone. There are so many apps that you can download that may seem mindless,
right,
but are far from mindless.
Yeah.
So those are things to keep in mind as well. And one of the resources that I love, and we just talked about this, is this book that it's called Living Out Loud. And this isn't a plug for anybody or paid endorsement, but I happen to love this.
No paid endorsements on any of these things. These are things we use in our lives.
Exactly. She has how to have a free mini vacation without leaving home. How fun is that you think about, how would I go about planning a vacation? What would I do? What kind of clothes? Where you're actually using your cognitive abilities, but you're not incorporating stress. And so it also takes you to a place where you start to bathe your brain in some of those feel-good chemicals that we've talked about, and the importance of joy. Simple joy. And why we need things that make us laugh and smile.
Right.
What kind of things do you use, Ruth?
Husband made this for me this morning.
I've already seen it. I'm still laughing.
Because we need to high five, right?
We need to high five big time.
Yeah, things that make you smile. There are all kinds of things. I love clay. I'm really lousy at this stuff at Sculpey. I mean, my things don't look like, they don't look like any great work of art, but that touching and the feeling of the clay and feeling that in my hand. There's a new iteration of clay that I just discovered that I love called magnetic sand.
I am so jealous of this right now. This is on my get list.
So what happens with this, Mary, is you form it, you squeeze it, and then it doesn't stay. It disintegrates.
And
the tactile experience changes. You can see it growing in my hand because it's sand inside some kind of magic. I love magic. Yeah.
I do too. And I think, one of the things that I love to have is I surround myself with pictures of my family and times that take me back to whether it was this vacation or that vacation. I have two magnet boards, and that's the souvenir I collect is just a magnet from this city or that city or fun event. And
What a
those
great thing. And you can
smile.
take yourself there. Yeah. You can take yourself there and feel that joy and feel that really wonderful piece. This kind of overlaps with, with all of the things we've been talking about. My son at one point gave me a jar of marbles. And, and you think of marbles as something that you roll in your fingers and, brings the stress down, whatever. He gave me this just in case I lose my marbles. I feel like I'm losing my marbles. You're right on my desk. It's not as full as it used to be, which I realized this morning. I've lost a ton of marbles, but that's okay. I got some, and that makes me happy, right?
And that's okay. Exactly. Exactly. I think it is a matter of dialing into those things that make you happy. You just summarized it right there. It's what can I have that's accessible?
Right.
Whether it's a rock in your pocket or a jar of marbles. Sometimes it's as simple as that first sip of coffee in the morning. But one of the things that's so important, whether it's a cognitive activity, a breathing activity, a joy-filled activity, is your intention behind it and taking the time to slow down and say, okay, in this moment, I'll do nothing but taste the coffee.
Focus on those things that keep you in what we're going to call the joy lane.
Yes.
That lane where you're really, and the brain benefit here is that you're coating your brain with this amazing bath of serotonin, dopamine, and norepinephrine. When you do that, everything is just moving right along. You can step into the stream at any point and ride it. There isn't a high, there isn't a low, there isn't that crazy anxiety feeling, but there's that lane. It's the joy lane, and it makes you feel good. And the kind of things that will take me there right away, petting a dog. My son will bring his dog over, and that just fills my heart. I rub his ears. That's that moving to the spot from the joy lane to the deeper lane, which we do need to feel every now and then, that I'm in touch with myself. It's the things that make me extremely joyful. Hiking.
Yes.
Those types of things, that connection with nature. I like to go out on a hike and I will find a rock and jump on it 3 times, intentionally ground myself. And that just gives a surge of amazing chemicals. And yes, I'm throwing a little bit of oxytocin in there, but I'm also achieving that balance. Yeah.
For me, it's music. Sometimes if I'm down here and I really want to bring myself way up here, just to kind of, and then find that balance again. It depends on where I'm looking to go, but that will mitigate the volume of my music. What type of music?
Yeah, volume and the type of music that you pick. Is it a fast-paced music? Is it there are music that creates a little bit of stress in your body too, because it builds to a crescendo, and
yes.
And it's 8:29. I shouldn't have looked down. We should have just continued our conversation.
And I was going to say, and the other thing to remember is sometimes any and all of these activities we keep to ourselves, we do them individually, and sometimes it is so much fun to share.
Yeah. Yeah.
I have had coloring parties. I have shared rock stories with a dear friend on the other side of the screen. I have danced with friends, and I've danced alone. So it's all about finding that balance and keeping your brain healthy with the different tools you have in your toolbox.
And finding your joy lane and living in it and looking at this next moment and saying, how can I stay in that joy lane? What can I do that's going to make me stay right here where it feels so good and I am in balance Not too much of this, not too much of that. Right in that joy lane.
Love it. So I want to just share really quick that we are planning on putting together a toolbox checklist so that we talked about a lot of different tools that we use, and we have so many more that we'll be happy to share, and that'll be coming soon.
My desk is still full of things that we didn't talk about, and I know your box is still full of things that I can see all the things we didn't talk about. So they'll all be on the list.
Exactly. Always so much fun to share time with you. That helps.
We've got we're talking to 2 exercise experts on the brain and exercise, and also one of the women who's coming on is very connected with nature, and she exercises outside all the time. She's going to talk about that as well. So thank you.
Thank you. Have a great day and find some joy.
Yep, you too. Thanks.
Thank you.